Hello, my name is Constantino Xavier. I'm a fellow here in Foreign Policy and Security at Brookings India. Today we had another series of our Foreign Policy and Security Tiffin Talks, where researchers present research, evidence-based scholarship, and discuss it with practitioners, people in government, and serving across different branches of government. Today we had Professor Anit Mukherjee with us. He's an assistant professor at the Rajaratnam School of International Studies, National Technological University, Singapore. He's done a lot of work on civil-military relations in India and what he calls an absent dialogue, and in many ways a gap between how the military thinks about security and acts and how the civilians stay away in many ways from military, strategic and security issues and sort of don't care about security issues and what you call the Huntingtonian objective control of leaving the armed forces to do their job. And I think you showed that this leads to a lot of suboptimal issues, a lot of problems, particularly on education. Today you presented on professional military education, and I think you've convincingly showed that there's tremendous problems, that civilians don't care about how and what the military is taught at the various military academies and educational institutions. So the first question on which your paper pivots is the National Defense University. Right. Goes back to 2001, the proposal.
2001, 2002, yeah.
Why has it not advanced? Or can you tell us quickly about the National Defense University and why it's not gone ahead?
Thank you so much, Tino, for inviting me here. It was a great gathering. Among the big fan I've been of this project is how you get together people who work with the government and academics to have a discussion. So I really enjoyed the session. On the NDU itself, I think the initial idea was in 1967 with the Chiefs of Staff Committee, but it was only after the Kargil War in 1999 that you had a committee on National Defense University, which was established. It was which suggested we should create a National Defense University. It's been 17 years now. Land has been acquired. A draft bill was put up online, but it wasn't introduced as yet. So 17 years is a long time. Why has it not been done? I think it's because of a number of factors. One, I don't think people are fundamentally convinced about the need for it, right? I mean, where does the National Defense University come in? What does it do? And I think in part it's because we go back to, I don't think that the civilians are that invested in trying to change professional military education because they don't know as much about it. So that's the theme of the book that I'm doing, which should come out later this year. And this was a chapter of the book which looks at professional military education. So they're not that invested and they don't think it really does matter. So I think because there's a lack of civilian involvement in some ways and conviction that they need to do this, it hasn't gone ahead. But fundamentally, why haven't they introduced the bill in Parliament? Why hasn't it been approved? I really don't know the answers to that.
Solutions. You talked about declassification.
Right,
you talked about hiring professors, civilian professors to teach it in your military institutes. So those are two. Any other? I mean, could you talk about these two and others? What are solutions to improve professional military education?
Among my arguments is professional military education is basically in the domain of the military. Which is not that surprising because that's the way it is in most countries. But I argue that does not suit the military well because then you do not emphasize subjects like military history, strategic studies, organizational theory, and a problem with why we are unable to analyze either of these subjects like history in India or kind of strategic studies.
So
we do not have access
That's the difference between education and operational training.
I think we do a fantastic job of operational training. I think we have a very well-trained junior to mid-level officers. I think education is different. Education is about training officers to deal with uncertainty. And if you look at training, that's about, train officers to deal with certainties. But I go back to a step. I think among the problems we have in PME is we just do not have access to archives, especially military archives, right? I mean, we have archives in the Murthy and all, which are papers that have leaked through, so as to speak. But because we do not have a process of declassification, and I don't know whose fault it is, if that is the military's fault or the defense ministry's fault, because we do not have a process by which documents can be passed on to scholars, we do not have a developed, sophisticated military history program. And history is the bedrock of strategic studies. And so you have a problem in India where you cannot grow strategic studies. And so that creates a problem.
So Operation Parakram, you mentioned that as an example.
So I gave that example and I said, look, I know of my friends who served in the military during that time. I know of senior colonels right now, and I'm like, how many senior officers can explain to me which report went into analyzing of Operation Parakram, which can tell us how the formations were moved, even up to a brigade level, why were they moved, what can we learn from it, because it was a very costly and an expensive operation. We lost more than 900 of officers and men, and it was the largest peacetime exercise, peacetime kind of mobilization that happened. And I do not know, as far as I know, of one document that went into studying Operation Parakram, and that is more importantly imparted as education to Indian serving military officers now. Because the problem with that is, in 10 years' time, we will still have division commanders and corps commanders who would actually take command of operation formations and not know what went wrong in Parakram. And so then we'll be condemned to go through the mistakes.
They'll not know their history and no lessons learned. Last question. The debate today, you saw, the closed door discussion we had was also, do we need a big bang reform?
Yeah.
Do we need civilians to take charge and inculcate professors into the military institutions in India? Or is there agency, an initiative which the Indian armed forces can take from within to revise their syllabuses, get modules of professors to come in to teach, to increase declassification processes, which you said even is often opposed by the military itself? So where do you stand on that?
So I think there have been certain positive improvements in the last 5 to 7 years, right? I've been fortunate enough to be invited for talks to different war colleges. I know of a few of my friends who work on this issue, and these are dedicated, sincere, committed people who want to make it better. And so there have been significant improvement in professional military education. We can look at how they are more open to inviting outsiders and how they are more interested in broadening the syllabus. And so all that is a positive. Having said all that, I still think that education requires civilian faculty as a core teaching within professional military education. I think it is not a good idea to have a military officer teach all sorts of subjects in whether it's Staff College or Army War College. I think you need to develop a faculty that actually can teach them about other subjects. So in terms of changes, for a long time, people say what we need in India is evolutionary change. I am someone who says when an opportunity comes, make the change that you want to see, make a revolutionary change, because unfortunately, before the Kargil War, there were a lot of arguments in India about what needs to change, and nothing changed till the Kargil War happened. I think we need to change now because we cannot afford another slap on our face like 1962, or we cannot afford another crisis like Kargil or 2008 attacks in Mumbai. I think we need to get the changes done when we can and not, suffer and then say, oh my God, we should have implemented the changes when we can. So, and I've interviewed people like Arun Singh back in the time, and, they've come around to the conclusion that it's better to have, when you have the opportunity, make the change that you want to see around you. Stop believing that this is India and we've got to be slow about it, because if that happens, then, as I said, then we'll be stuck with breathing poisonous air and curse the country, which is not a good way to be.
Thank you, Anit. Thank you for joining us. Please do check out the event summary, which we put up online, and also Professor Mukherjee's paper, which is published in Armed Forces and Society. Correct? So we'll put up the link. Do check it out. Thank you.